Hey everyone, Flo from Lens here, and this video is about the Hasselblad X2D II 100C and the new 35-100E. I've had the opportunity to use and test this kit over the past 3 months, both as a BTS camera on my shoots and also of course for outdoor photography. I want to discuss how I use this kit and why, what I like about it, but also what I don't like or what could be improved, and finally whether or not I would recommend the kit. And I will also mention and showcase a couple of accessories that I'm using it with. This is not an in-depth technical review, but more my experience using the kit in real scenarios. Also keep in mind that I'm primarily a filmmaker these days, but I have also been an outdoor photographer for nearly 15 years. As always, before I start, be sure to subscribe to see more videos like this one, and let's jump into it. Some of you may know, but I actually started to work as a photographer nearly 15 years ago, and I focused on outdoor and travel content, especially when it came to social media. I documented places like New Zealand, Iceland, Antarctica, and many others. I have always been a filmmaker as well, of course, but photography was the first thing that helped me grow my career online. In recent years, the more I started to film, the less I took photos. One reason is time, of course, but the other massive factor is that the more I use high-resolution cinema cameras, the more I was disappointed with my actual photography gear, as I could not replicate the same images, especially when it came to depth and aspect ratio. Of course, there's a lot more to it than just gear and resolution, but I'm also a technical person, and so I do notice differences in those aspects very easily. Photography then became a hobby again, and I took mostly personal content as I simply lost interest. However, living in the French Alps really made me want to get back into it, and so I started to do some research on what camera could really match the feeling I was able to get and create with my filmmaking, and the result was medium format. Now we all know medium format isn't very accessible for everyone, so I did something I pretty much never do. I reached out to a company. I get lucky these days that 90% of my work comes to me directly, but this time I had to reach out, and I'm glad I did. So a year and a half ago, I got in touch with Hasselblad and managed to get a loan camera and a couple of lenses for 6 months to try it out. I had the X2D Mark I, as well as the 38V and 75p. And no surprise there, I loved it. The colors, the depth, the resolution, and the build quality were just incredible. But more importantly, it made me want to get back out there and take photos again. From behind the scenes in Iceland to outdoor content in the French Alps and street photography in New York, it became my main stills camera. Last year, they announced a new 35-100E, and it got me really excited, as even though I love primes, I also love to use zooms for both my photography and filmmaking, as their range can be very useful on shoots. So I reached out, and they were very happy to work with me again this year, not only with a zoom, but also with the new X2D Mark II. Now, full disclaimer, Hasselblad did send me the kit for me to keep, but they don't get to modify the content of this video, and these are always my own opinions. Since I often receive a few comments with people complaining that I get to keep the gear against content, I want to address this. I completely understand if you choose not to watch, but I want to be honest from the get-go. I get to keep the gear because I need to be compensated for my time spent making these videos. Very simple. I don't get the gear or get paid on YouTube to say things. It is simply because it is part of my job and I can't work for free. And as with all my reviews, I want to give as much information while still being genuine and show you what I like but also what I don't like after using these items in an organic way in real scenarios. The rest is entirely up to you. And in this case, I happen to be the one asking, and Hasselblad isn't going to give me something without expecting something else in return. I just cannot afford it on my own, so I feel very lucky that I'm in a position where collaboration like this can exist. I've also been using the X2D system for a year and a half now, so this isn't a quick and rushed video. And Hasselblad isn't also telling me what to do. I'm free to create whatever video I want that I feel would be useful and resonate with my audience, which is of course very important for me. Now back to the kit. Let's go quickly over the kit's features and specs, but before I want to mention the unboxing experience, because this is definitely not your average camera and lens. I love great packaging in general, but this is something else. You can feel you got something special in your hands, and opening it for the first time is an experience in itself. Now let's focus on the body first. The X2D Mark II is a medium format camera. It features a 100 megapixel sensor with 15 stops of dynamic range and 16-bit color depth. It also has a 1TB internal SSD and a 5.7 million dot OLED EVF. When compared to the previous version, it features an improved autofocus with 425 points PDAF and LiDAR. as well as a 3.5-inch two-way tilting OLED touchscreen. There is also a new clickable dial and a new joystick. On top of that, you now have also 10-stop in-body stabilization, and you can also shoot in HDR. The body color is also quite different with a grey matte finish, and the camera weighs just above 800 grams with a battery in it. And at the time of making this video, the price is $7,399 USD. When it comes to the lens, it is a 35-100 medium format zoom, which is a full-frame equivalent of 28-76. Wide open, the aperture range from 2.8 to f4, depending on the focal length, and it features an integrated leaf shutter with up to 1/4000th of a second sync. And it weighs just under 900 grams, and in terms of price, it retails for $4,599 USD. And of course, you can find more info on this kit with the links in the description. As always, when I do reviews or videos like these, I prefer to use the gear on actual projects and real scenarios. This is why I waited 3 months to make this video. For this kit and this video, I separate my use in two main categories: BTS and outdoor photography. Let's start with BTS. One of the main uses for the kit for me is to take high quality behind the scenes content during my shoots. This can be to document the project, to create content for the brands involved, or simply to have memories. Over the past few months I have shot several projects of different kinds, and the X2D II was the main BTS stills camera. One example is that I used it on a music video shot with my friend Thomas Tessier and a crew of 4 plus talent. We spent 2 days shooting in an all-French library and created a piece for an American singer, Jackie Minton. Having the zoom for this was actually crucial, since we had varied scenes and some had lots of room around, but others were in a very tight place, so we made use of the full range from 35 to 100. Having in-body stabilization was also very useful, since we had to shoot handheld and the place was quite dark. Then I also used it to document testing anamorphic lenses in a French shops. This is when dynamic range and resolution come into play. Shooting near the snow, for example, can be tricky, but with the X2D II I had no issues. At some point we were shooting at 3000 meter high or 10,000 feet in a very reflective environment surrounding by glaciers, and he handled it very well. The resolution is of course also incredible, and being able to just zoom in either to adjust the framing or simply to create several photos out of one shot is amazing. I'm even able to check which lenses I was using and what settings just by zooming in a lot, and this is crazy useful and quite impressive. And when I mean zooming in a lot, this is what I mean. Once you get used to this, it's very hard to go back to anything else. I also use this kit to take some product shots both indoors and outdoors. I actually took most of my BTS content last year with a 38mm, which I absolutely love, but of course in some situations a prime can be limited, and so this is when a zoom lens like the 35 to 100 can be very useful. I really wish I had this in Iceland. Next I want to talk about using this kit for outdoor photography. I've been shooting in the mountains and outdoors in general for more than 20 years. And this is hands down the highest quality and best experience I've had from a purely stills camera point of view. Since I started to use medium format, I actually cannot go back to full frame. There is a certain depth and feel that is impossible to replicate. Of course, as I said before, resolution and sensor size isn't everything, but it does help a lot, especially when it comes to landscape content. I loved using the 38mm and the 75mm, and I was very happy with the photos I took, but since I became a photographer, I have always preferred zooms for travel and outdoor content. This is the reason that I really wanted to try the 35 to 100E. I wanted to be able to get that amazing quality I was used to, but in a more flexible combo. Over the past 3 months, I've taken hundreds of images, ranging from high mountains to snow, sunrise, sunset, but also general hiking and landscape. And I've been super happy with the kit. The colors are spot on, and the amount of detail is quite incredible. It feels very organic and true to what I was seeing on the day. The range is also great, the quality is insane, and I don't have to worry about changing lenses, which sometimes, depending on the environment, can be a massive plus. And even if 100mm can seem a bit limited in some cases, there is so much resolution to play with that I can just crop in to get that extra length if needed. I could go on any adventure anywhere in the world, and this would probably be the only photography kit that I would bring or need. As someone that is used to film on larger cinema cameras, I also find this kit to be quite light and comfortable for its size. Now I want to mention the accessories that I'm using with this kit. Firstly, as with all my cameras, I prefer to use the Peak Design straps instead of the original one you get with a camera. I prefer the Peak Design because it is very durable, flexible, but mainly very quick to adjust and remove thanks to the anchor system. but also because it doesn't scream Hasselblad. The other accessory I want to talk about today is this cage by Falcam. This camera kit is very expensive, and this is not something that I want to damage, especially since I use it outdoors across all season and in different environments, and also on set. I want to be careful, but I don't want to be precious or worry about it. I use cages on pretty much all of my cameras, cinema or stills. Falcam actually reached out to me a while ago, but there was nothing at the time that I genuinely needed, so I politely declined. After I received the X2D Mark II, I did some research to try and find a cage, and I found this one. I reached back and they were kind enough to send me one to check out. They don't need me to create any content, they didn't ask for anything, but I thought I'd mention it here since I genuinely like it. Aside from wanting to protect the camera, the main thing that attracted me about this cage was the ability to fit an air tag in it. I always have a few in my bags, but being able to have it physically in the cage is amazing and very useful. The cage itself is very well built, very solid, with a great finish, and it fits so well. It really feels and looks like it is part of the camera. Even the actual box it came in looks like the Hasselblad one. You also have several mounting options, and you even get an L plate so you can use the kit vertically or horizontally, and if you don't want to use it at all, they give you a small cover for a clean look. And on top of that, they give you all the tools you need to attach and detach the cage. It feels very sturdy and I highly recommend it. As with all the gear mentioned in this video, I will put the link below if you want to check it out. Now, like I said, this is not an in-depth review, but I still want to mention the things that I like the most and also the things that I don't like about this kit. First of all, the user experience. This camera is amazing to use. From the easy and very minimalist menus to the screen responsiveness, as well as the new buttons and joystick. Everything feels right, is nicely laid out, and it doesn't get in the way. Then we have the image quality. This sensor is truly incredible. From the colors to the dynamic range, as well as the insane resolution and depth, it is hands down the best stills camera I've ever used. The build quality is also amazing. It feels sturdy and comfortable even after hours or in the cold. The same goes for the lens. They both have that premium feel. Next we have the SSD, and this is one of my favorite features. I've never used a single card since I've had it, and never used one on the Mark I either. You have around 4,000 images depending on what settings you use, and it is so useful. This is something that should be standard on many cameras, both stills and cinema. Next I want to mention the range on the lens, as it is super useful and makes for such a powerful combo. If you have only one lens to consider for this camera, this should definitely be on your list. I also love the fact that this camera doesn't shoot video, as I have always preferred to separate the two. And lastly, I like the weight. Despite the look and size, it feels very well balanced and is quite light for what it offers and what it actually is, being a digital medium format camera with a pretty large zoom on it. Having used the X2D Mark I for a year and a half, I also like some of the new features of the Mark II, especially the autofocus. It genuinely feels faster and more reliable. It was one of the weaknesses of the previous version, and I am glad that there is a big improvement. I also appreciate having a joystick, and I'm a big fan of the new look. There's nothing that I really don't like about this kit, but I still want to mention a few things that could be improved or that I noticed. Keep in mind that we are talking about a 100 megapixel digital medium format camera kit. The first thing I want to mention is the size and shape of the lens. Of course, it has to be big, being medium format with a useful range, but the size combined with the shape of the lens and the fact that it doesn't zoom internally can make it a little awkward to hold or even use, since everything is so linear and straight. There isn't a huge amount of grip. Not a deal breaker at all, but thought I'd mention it. The next thing is the lack of GPS in the body of the camera. For the price and how premium it is, I really think you should have the ability to track the camera in case something were to happen. Then we have the battery life. Of course, there is a lot of data and power in a camera like this, but I wish that the battery would last a little longer, especially in the cold. I also have to talk about the file size. As you can imagine, these are not small files. Each photo is around 200 meg, and whilst my computer can handle them pretty easily, I wish that there was a mode to shoot with 50 megapixel, for example, instead of the full 100. And then finally, of course, the price, for both the camera and the lens. Now don't get me wrong, it is definitely worth it, but it is still a significant amount of money and therefore something that can't be ignored. When you start looking into stills digital medium format cameras, you start to understand that things like that come at a very high price, which makes sense. And of course this one happens to have a very premium finish and user experience. This combo allows me to shoot everything I want and with an unmatched quality and user experience when it comes to photo-only cameras. For me, this is the ultimate BTS and outdoor photography kit, and it honestly ruined every single other stills camera for me. I feel very fortunate to be able to use such a premium piece of equipment. If you can afford it, I would highly recommend it, as I am yet to see another kit that allows you to create such beautiful imagery whilst also being a beautifully crafted object. And of course, just because you have the budget doesn't mean that you need to get this specific kit, as it can be overkill depending on the work that you do. That's it for me for today, guys. Hope you've enjoyed this video, that it was helpful and interesting to you, and if you did, feel free to subscribe. And also let me know what stills camera you use these days and how. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Also, feel free to check out my 2 ebooks, Freelance Documentary Filmmaking and Travel Cinematography, where you can find a streamlined but comprehensive overview from pre-production all the way to marketing, built on years of my own experience shooting short documentaries and travel videos around the world. And if you are interested, I'm also doing filmmaking mentoring sessions when you can ask me anything about a wide variety of topics.